Crazy breaking news happening right now in Moscow, Russia, with developments coming in now that we, of course, are going to be discussing all here on thebestpoliticalshow.com. As of course, usually we don't usually do podcast episodes Fridays because Fridays are usually very slow news days. Today's not a very slow news day, as of course we got a lot of really crazy news coming in right now, especially when it comes to a U.S. advisory warning Russia about a potential attack 2 weeks ago. We have a $1.2 trillion minibus spending bill that was just passed. Candace Owens was just fired from the Daily Wire. And of course, there's a lot of other crazy health stuff that we are going to be discussing all here on the best political show for the next 2 hours. To be a part of that conversation, you could, of course, Rumble, Rant, Super Chat. We prefer you guys check out mysuperchat.com, a way for you guys to interact and actually allow your Super Chats to show up on screen. You guys could also sign up to lookunfiltered.com, and then by doing so, you have the ability to call into the show, and we will be taking callers in about an hour and a half from now. As of course, this is a 2-hour jam-packed show talking about a lot of very serious developments. As of course, we usually also start with some kind of comedic funny video. Today really wasn't the day to do that. Joining us for this very special conversation, we have a lot of really incredible people in studio with us. One of those people is, of course, Mr. Ed Clay. Ed, for the people who don't know you, how would you introduce yourself?
Well, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I own the Cellular Performance Institute and Translational Advanced Medical Center. And I'm really into freedom. So worked on a couple of Ron Paul campaigns back in the day, and love what y'all are doing.
My people.
That's right.
Clint Russell, host of Liberty Lockdown. I am back from the Beanie Castle. Glad to be here. I love Miami, and the weather is so much better. And I'm sorry that I had to swap places with Ian. I know that he's going to be heartbroken. But you can follow me at Liberty Lock Pod. Liberty Lockdown's the show, and I also do Tower Gang. You shouldn't watch that. We got Tobuscus in the building.
You're telling me you didn't enjoy the middle of nowhere? You're telling me you didn't enjoy your experience through what essentially is like the Blair Witch Project out there?
The drab weather in the Blair Witch Project. I don't know. It wasn't that.
With very aggressive beanie mans? You didn't enjoy that? You didn't like that? I don't understand here. Tobuscus is here. He hasn't left. He's staying.
I'm still over here.
He's staying in the guest room.
Can I just say, you were like, oh, the weather was way much better. Do you know that it was pouring down constantly all day today? Which is nice.
It's like the only day. He brought the rain. He brought the rain, misery, and
he made God cry.
They call me the rainmaker. Yeah. We got Steph on the buttons.
Yeah.
Steph, say something. Come on, get the mic over there.
I'm pushing on the buttons.
All right, let's just get right into it. As of course, there's a lot of breaking news happening right now with the situation in Moscow, Russia. As of course, it is a very tense situation as we are now getting the initial reports that 40 people have lost their lives. There's over 100 people injured, as it looks like from the initial accounts, 5 very trained, very armed men with explosives came into a theater and then decided to go after innocent civilians there. The videos are very tragic. They're very horrific. We will not be showing any of those videos here during this particular broadcast because they are extremely intense and absolutely not family friendly. The news is coming in right now that Ukraine is denying their involvement in this, as now we are getting official reports from an outlet connected to ISIS, the Islamic State, that they are taking responsibility for this larger terror attack in Moscow that is being deemed essentially their larger Pearl Harbor-like event. There's going to be a lot of ramifications. There's going to be a lot of major decisions because of this major breaking news event that everyone's talking about right now. There's a lot of fake news. There's a lot of lies. There's a lot of disinformation, but it's fair to say that this event definitely shifted the energy towards some very stark possibilities that could unfold here from this one particular event and absolutely spiral out of control. I don't know about you guys, but this is absolutely worrying and absolutely tragic and absolutely just sad. Just seeing a lot of these videos shown over and over again on social media. There's one particular video of just people huddled in a corner, and these psychopathic, brazen lunatics are just literally unleashing,
Hell.
Yeah, hell on them. And there's this one woman that's just is like, I'm not even going to try to hide. And I don't know, that image sticks with me because it's very profound, and it shows you just how short life is, and how much we truly need to honor it, respect it, and we really need to push back against a lot of the evil people in this world that want to take it away from us. I don't know about you guys. This is just my kind of initial reaction to this. I don't know what you guys are feeling or seeing on social media, but there's a lot of disinformation, a lot of bullcrap out there. What do you guys make of what just happened?
I think it's just, it's sad anytime with innocent lives, and with all the political how polarizing everything is right now. It just kind of reminds me that all that's BS, and we should protect innocent people no matter what. That's what it's really about. It's not about the left versus right, or I'm right, you're wrong. It's about protecting people, and it's sad anytime people are suffering because we're all human.
Yeah, I mean, my initial reaction, unfortunately, is as soon as I get past the sympathy for the victims, I immediately go into who's responsible. And my grave concern is that, in fact, Victoria Nuland recently stepped down or was removed from her position at the State Department. And if people remember, in the weeks prior to her removal, she was saying that there was a surprise coming for Russia. And I have to wonder if that might be correlated. On top of that, you have John Kirby as well as Antony Blinken, as well as a State Department release that was warning Americans that were still living in Russia to avoid large gatherings. And in that declaration, they included concerts specifically. This attack happened at a concert. I'm not going to make any claims as to knowing who's responsible, but I think that people should reserve judgment and dig deeper. If you haven't learned that after Snake Island and the pipeline, and how many examples do you need before you reserve judgment and dig?
Yeah, I mean, we could get into the theories in a little bit, and we have to tell people, hey, this is just our theory. This is just our kind of speculation here. There's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of fake news out there. From what we know, the current reports detail 5, some people say 4, very, very highly trained individuals with some significant firepower, with explosives, with some reports of Molotov cocktails, some reports of AK-47s, and implementing hell on a lot of really just panicked individuals that were caught up in the middle of a larger attack against them, a larger attack against the innocents here. For whenever there's an event like this, I think, first of all, the first thing we need to do, let's first understand what happened here. Then let's try to, make sure that the victims here are respected and they're taken care of, because the situation is still ongoing. Right now, we also are getting reports specifically from the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Moscow that they're calling all personnel to arrive at work within the next hour, including those individuals who have a day off. Everyone is told to be armed. Everyone is told to be equipped, as, of course, a lot of these incidences usually aren't isolated incidences, and they usually follow incidences that are sadly copycat incidences as well. We are also getting news that allegedly there's a suspect that is in custody that was arrested here that allegedly is one of the men that was responsible for this. Again, is this exactly what's happening here? Is this a case of mistaken identity? We do not know yet. As of course, eyewitnesses are detailing the specific situation with their accounts, and a lot of eyewitness testimony usually isn't the best kind of testimony, even in a court of law, even in the United States, as a lot of fear, trauma, and panic usually hinders people's kind of reliving of very traumatic moments. So what exactly happened here? Again, we're going to find out. We're seeing a lot of videos online, and it's pretty clear. These guys were out there, and they were absolutely cowards. They were absolute monsters, and they were there to take the life of innocent human beings, and they did so in a very dramatic way.
Well, just one quick important addition. Normally, first off, I've seen the footage, and these guys don't have the garb that you expect on ISIS fighters, but these could be local Russian or Chechnyan that have adopted the ISIS mantra. So I'm not saying that that's proof, but it is very rare that these people are taken alive. So if the reports are accurate that one of them was taken alive, that is unusual for ISIS fighters. So I think that's something to consider as well.
Something else is if you want to not have Twitter automatically play videos that are of people being can you say
taken
that?
out or
taken out, de-livened. You can go to this is difficult to do, which is it's kind of frustrating. That's so difficult. You click. I'm just going to tell you. You click more, then go to settings and privacy. Go to accessibility display languages, then go to data usage, and then click autoplay, and then never. That's what I do. I just if I'm ready for it, I'm like, oh, here's what happens. This person does this thing. You're like, I don't want to look at that. And you can decide for yourself.
Not a bad idea.
No, that's a good tip because there's a lot of stuff on Twitter that is just absolutely like shocking.
And it's not easy to enable that. You have to go through like 4. It doesn't make sense. Anyways.
No, that's a good point because I'm scrolling and I'm like,
right.
I'm sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a nap, I'm going to sleep, but let me just see what's going on in the news. And I'm like, what did I just watch? Like nightmare-esque kind of stuff. Now there's different kind of thinking when it comes to dealing with this kind of stress. Some people, especially in the kind of therapy world and this kind of mental health world, say, hey, avoid it. Don't be kind of exposed to it. Other individuals like Andrew Tate say, hey, you got to watch stuff like this so you're prepared if it ever happens to you that you won't be shocked or freeze when these situations kind of unfold. So I don't know what you guys make of that particular kind of argument. I think there's also a limit to how much you could endure of that stuff, but Twitter definitely has been quite shocking in many instances within the last few weeks, showing some just awfully vile things that I did not want to see, and it just plays automatically.
Yeah, X has basically become like the TikTok of extreme violence.
Wow.
So I would...
What a T-shirt.
Yeah. I mean... because I cover the news and because I cover foreign conflict a lot, I do feel kind of obligated to watch some of this stuff. And I'll be honest, it has calloused me to a certain extent. So I think that there are positives in understanding, the grim nature of humanity. I think there's also obviously, detractions or detriments to the individual if you watch it too much. So yeah, I decompress. I try and work out 4 or 5 times a week and make sure that I disconnect from the savageness of the world. So I think it's a balance.
We did that yesterday. We had a good time. We went out on the town, and it was pretty fun. I know Luke doesn't want to put any fun in this episode because it's a horrible, horrible thing just happened, but it was pretty good. I know. Unrelated.
Thanks, Toby. Yeah, great comment. Yeah.
Well, just walk around.
Hey, there's hundreds of people that are maimed and stuff. We had fun last night.
I know. I'm trying to.
Great.
You gotta find
I had a conversation with Toby before the show too. I'm like, Toby, this is a pretty serious situation. Toby, this is not the time to be cracking jokes. This is not the time to
Toby is not a newsman.
But you go outside, you listen to the rain, pitter patter, or whatever. You'll be all right, or not. You might not. I don't know.
Touch grass.
Or
touch the grass.
You can have a great time out in the town. You could go to a concert with your friends and family.
And then you could be in Las Vegas and the FBI could set something up where they take the lives of all those innocent human beings and then never properly investigate it or find out the true reason and core purpose before it actually freaking happened.
Can I tell you something? So in Vegas, this is terrible. But on the day of the shooting, my mom came back. She was like, I just dropped a guy off at a thing, and then the shooting comes out, and I look at my screenshot of my Uber driver. I think that's him. And so we were trying to line up to see. The guy looked like it was the guy. It's like, my mom, it's her fault. So she's been living with that.
Just leave him in silence.
I told her it's her fault.
Leave him in silence. I don't know what else to do or say during these situations. But
it's possible.
But
it's possible.
But this is why again it's important to try to find out as much information as you can. And sadly, like the incidences from the Las Vegas shooting, we still don't know a lot of what actually happened there and what actually transpired there.
Yep.
Automatically. One of the first things that kind of came to mind, and again, I tweeted this right away, and I was like, I don't want to tweet it because I kind of want to have respect for the situation here and for the larger impact here. My first kind of initial reaction was to talk about this is why it's so important for people to be able to defend themselves, know how to defend themselves, and to have the proper tools to be able to defend themselves as well. As, of course, a lot of people who are properly trained have stopped a lot of these incidences from happening here inside of the United States, and with our border being as wide open as as it is, with the United States making enemies, especially in the Islamic world, especially now with ISIS allegedly now taking credit for this through their official Al-Amaq outlet. This is something that automatically comes to my mind, and it's something that is a possibility for people to be affected by any moment, by any chance.
I think it's also important for people to realize that according to leaked cables from WikiLeaks, there is a lengthy history of U.S. involvement in arming, training, funding, and some people say creating ISIS. So if they are...
No, they did. The United States did create ISIS because if you look at the fall of the Iraqi government, they were filled with a lot of the Baathists who were no longer allowed to be a part of the government, a part of the military, that said, you know what, we're just going to join these other guys here with these other radical sects of Sunni Islam. And that later came to be ISIS. There were specific American generals that came out and said, we helped create them because all the guys who were capable, who were of fighting age and were equipped and trained to fight, we literally kicked out of the military. Those guys literally helped create ISIS with other Islamists in the north of Iraq. Then the situation happened where the United States just magically lost a lot of its gear, a lot of the Hummers, a lot of the weaponry, a lot of the radio communications, a lot of the things that they needed to fight a war. And then essentially they said, hey, look, there's Bashar al-Assad here. He's not really getting along with our neighbors here. He's not really getting along with Israel, the United States, Saudi Arabia, Turkey. There's some arguments between all of our allies and him. ISIS. Oh, we accidentally dropped more weapons on you guys. We absolutely dropped more resources for you guys to fight this war. And they were armed and equipped and trained in many instances with direct U.S. tax-paying dollars that financed them and allowed them to be as prominent as they are right now, as they now take responsibility for this attack in Moscow.
And this ties in perfectly to the neoconservative movement in the 1990s and the clean break doctrine. They wanted to have kind of like these... You know, it really ties into Gladio, honestly, when you have
explain to the people what Gladio is.
Yeah, Operation Gladio was, I think it was in the 1960s, but the concept was that you were going to leave behind, trained radicals that would overthrow governments and do things of that nature. And because this ties in perfectly with the clean break doctrine, that they wanted to sow discord in any of the Middle Eastern nations that were unfriendly with Israel. And it looks as if ISIS was utilized for that purpose in Syria and many other nations. So the fact that ISIS would be claiming responsibility, given that the U.S. and the State Department in particular has been extraordinarily antagonistic with Russia throughout this process with Ukraine, if you tie back into the Maidan Revolution, I mean, it's a very complicated map. So I just want people to really dig in before. Don't take at face value any of the reports. You really got to do your own research on this one.
We have a super chat from Red Viking saying, pray for Moscow. Israel has connections to ISIS. I would disagree with you, Red Viking. Those connections are very loose. They're very vague. If anything, throughout the larger kind of Syrian civil war that was engineered by American foreign policy, Israel and ISIS never really attacked each other. They kind of saw each other in the Golan Heights region, and they were like, okay, there's some reports of allegedly some kind of aid and assistance. Again, a lot of it hasn't been corroborated. But when you look at Saudi Arabia and Turkey and the United States, they played a bigger role when it came to creating that larger terrorist group that, of course, your tax dollars predominantly financed. There was also a lot of oil that was being stolen from Syria that was literally being brought up to Turkey. Turkey was buying it from ISIS. And when you look at that situation, and this one here right in front of me, as I pulled up the LA Times article describing in 2016, quote, in Syria, militias armed by the Pentagon fight those armed by the CIA. Now, who are they fighting? Radical Islamic terrorists that were financed by you and your tax dollars. So this is critically important as, of course, Russia decided to get involved in Syria when Barack Obama said, hey, we're going to liberate the people of Syria. We're going to free them by bombing the crap out of them, just like he did with Libya with Hillary Clinton. And Russia literally sent in their warships and said, no, you're not. You're not going to be attacking and going after Syria. And then the Russian troops were literally embedded with Syrian troops fighting on the ground, fighting against ISIS. Iranian troops and Iranian forces and proxy forces were also fighting specifically against ISIS. Those, of course, were larger representations of the Shiite-Sunni divide in the Middle East that, of course, is ever growing and expanding now.
Let me add to that, too. I think that was the moment that the U.S. State Department decided to topple Vladimir Putin, is that he stood with Syria against their larger plans there. And ever since then, if you've noticed, we have been very, very aggressive towards Russia, and vice versa. Russia has become increasingly aggressive towards the United States and the West. So I think this is all part of a larger plan that the American people are largely not informed upon, and it's tragic because it's existential. It's risking every man, woman, and child on earth, and it's not to our benefit as far as I can tell.
You look at Michael Flynn. Think of whatever you may about him now, but you look at Michael Flynn. This is a man that was within the Obama administration that came out and whistleblowed specifically. The United States supports radical Wahhabist movements in Syria in order to overthrow the Syrian government and go after Bashar al-Assad. Yep. I don't know if you remember any of this, Clay. I see you kind of nod along, but this is American foreign policy that is absolutely ridiculous, is absolutely stupid, and to me highlights a problem that. It's very convenient for the kind of intelligentsia of the deep state to kind of deal with now, since they're the ones who kind of created it.
Well, I think this is exactly why Tulsi Gabbard has become more of a non-interventionist too, is because this was her experience as a
Tulsi visited Syria and was on the ground there describing the situation that I'm describing to you now, specifically with these Wahhabists that were trying to take down the secular Syrian government that was protecting Christians.
Yeah.
And what if
here we go.
What if we turn down my headset volume a little bit?
No, I think we're going to turn it up.
I think I'm going deaf.
I'll turn it down for
put
you.
This on?
But I think
thank you for providing such important context. Thank you for
I can't hear anything you're talking about. It just
providing
sounds like,
thank you for providing such great context, Toby.
It's
I don't know
too
where
loud,
this show
guys.
would be without you. I have
too
no
loud.
idea.
you don't really need the headphones on, but I hope you process what
You
we were
have
saying.
headphones
'cause it
on?
was
What do I
actually-
wanna look like
it was
an
very-
outcast?
It was very important.
You take notes, Toby, right now. Take notes.
Here you
Try to gain something from this. But this is a lot of what the kind of libertarian, this kind of freedom movement, this kind of movement of patriots has been screaming out against for a very long time. As an independent journalist, when the situation in Syria was unfolding, when the situation in Iraq was unfolding, I was protesting the Iraq war. That's how old I am. I'm an old frickin' man. I may not look like it. That's because of the camera angles and the light. I'm an old man, literally marching in Washington, D.C. against the Iraq war, which started and created all of this. If it wasn't for the Iraq war, Iran wouldn't be as powerful as they are right now. ISIS wouldn't exist on the world stage. And over 1 million plus people would still be alive, and we wouldn't be in perpetual debt with the destruction of the American Constitution, all based on lies ever since an event unfolded in 2001 that also is just as questionable as any event that, of course, preceded it, that there's many serious things about that were still never fully addressed and talked about.
Let's add to that too that many estimates put it at between 8 and 10 trillion was the cost of the war on terror. So our national debt is 34 trillion. That would potentially reduce it all the way back down to 25 trillion, which is still astronomical, but it would have been much more manageable. We wouldn't be dealing with the inflationary issues that we are today, at least not as severely. So, like, we pay a price for this. I think it's really important for the American people to understand that, like, it feels very detached from us because it's like, well, it's happening over in the Middle East. It's 6,000 miles away. We can't do anything about it. Well, we pay a price. We do.
The people who warned you, independent journalists who warned you, were demonetized, downranked, had their channels deleted. Individuals within the government that whistleblowed, like Michael Flynn, were literally punished and thrown in jail for just even having conversations with Russian officials that they used as a justification to kick him out of the frickin' Trump administration for doing so. Everything here highlights a kind of rogue, out of control state. And again, I think this is important to talk about, especially with ISIS taking responsibility here. As to me, again, we're still waiting to find out what happened here. But just like any major event, it deserves to be questioned fully and outright.
Yeah, and I was just a little over a year ago, I was in Washington, D.C., because I'm much younger than Luke. So I was protesting the most recent war. This is
what was the first war you protested?
I didn't really protest much. I was like, working my business, and I also lived in California, so we didn't have much anti-war protests, at least not that I knew
So the
about.
Ukraine war is your first one.
Yeah, that was the first one, and I actually spoke with right after Ron Paul did in DC, and it was it's heartbreaking that like that in that moment I knew, and the energy in the crowd was like, this is really existential, and this is 14 months ago. You know, like we are sleepwalking our way into a like potentially a hot conflict with multiple nuclear powers, and it doesn't seem as if there's anyone on any side of the political aisle that is like that has power that's having serious conversations about this, aside from, surprising as it is for me to say, Donald Trump. Donald Trump actually does talk about this stuff. When he did that CNN town hall and he said, you know, I just want people to stop dying. You know, like that was the first time I've heard an American political leader, aside from Ron Paul and Thomas Massie's of the world, that was actually talking about the grave nature of war and what it means to humanity. And, you know, for that, I'm appreciative. I don't know if he's serious about actually stopping it, but we certainly need someone in there that understands how dangerous this all is.
Yeah, and you remember the kind of Ron Paul days. Ron Paul was kind of hoisted up and garnered so much attention predominantly because of this issue.
Well, yeah, he spoke the truth, and he basically laid it out in those debates like nobody else I'd ever heard before.
Yeah,
it was incredible. It's like finally somebody speaking the truth. I think now with the internet we have a lot more of people learning the truth, getting red pill per se. But you know, back then that was the first time that anybody had actually done that on a world stage, and it made an impact. I think that we're here a lot because of that impact, that ripple that he caused.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Dave Smith has talked about this dozens of times, that it was the debate stage in '08. It was Ron Paul versus Giuliani. It's called the Giuliani moment. Yeah. And the whole reason that we have Dave Smith as a libertarian is because of Ron Paul and that moment. And because he took him from being a leftist to thinking about all of this stuff more deeply. And there's thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of millions potentially of people all over the world that now perceive foreign policy in a completely different paradigm than they once did. And I'm forever grateful to Ron for that.
Yeah, I think you look at like what we're going through now. This is the same thing that was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You start seeing these cycles over and over and over again. And at what point is the world going to realize it's just insanity and that these people are just sending us off to die for money?
Yeah. Not yet.
We got a Rumble rant. By the way, we're going to be going to callers from members of lukeandfilter.com in about an hour from now. But we got a Rumble rant from Pepe Payne saying, first deployment, we personally trained the dudes that became ISIS. Think they were called Sons of Iraq back then. Got a coin from the commanding general in theater for doing so. Again, that just is a Rumble rant. Take it as you may. As we also have some other breaking news developing right now, as we have a statement from the United States National Security Council spokesmember John Kirby said, quote, our thoughts are with the victims of this terrible shooting attack. The images are just horrible and just hard to watch. There's no indication at this time that Ukraine or Ukrainians were involved in the shooting. We're taking a look at it, but I would disabuse you at this early hour of any connection to Ukraine. There's also some reports of allegedly a truck that contained these individuals connected to Ukrainian plates. Again, these are early reports, not corroborated at all.
I don't think the guys that would, if they were from Ukraine, they would be in a truck with Ukrainian plates.
It could be that there was just a truck with Ukrainian plates there, and then people are jumping to conclusions. But we're just kind of detailing what's going on here. As of course, I think it's fair to speculate that there's a number of circumstances, a number of possibilities that could be unfolding here that are worth discussing here. As I wanted to go over all the larger possibilities, it does look like it is ISIS, but again, I still think there deserves to be more attention when it comes to just questioning everything, because automatically when this event happened, a lot of people are like, oh, it could be Ukraine. Ukraine is launching a lot of military operations inside of Russia. This could be a doctrine that, of course, they're using with unconventional warfare, as they have previously targeted civilians, reporters, and journalists in Russia for favoring the Russian government and speaking out against the Ukrainian government. Automatically, people are saying this is going to be the event that the Russians are going to be using to justify a larger kind of attack on Ukraine, with some people even saying maybe Russia was even behind this attack, as there are some questions about potentially an FSB kind of false flag operation here as well.
Which they have done in the past.
Yeah,
but
they have
know.
done, especially with the Chechens and the apartment blocks. I have that article pulled up as well that I wanted to highlight and show you here, because Let's just be real. During emergencies, the governments gain a lot of power, which incentivizes them to create emergencies. Now, I'm not saying that this is exactly what's happening here. I am speculating. I am going off theories that are just running through my head. Take everything that I'm saying with a grain of salt here, but I think all of these potential outcomes are worth discussing. I'm going to put up a poll because I think there's three kind of possibilities here. One, it's as we're told, it's ISIS, it's radical Islamists. Two, could be the West, could be Ukraine with the West just doing this again. I don't see that as a kind of strategic thing. Three, could be Russia trying to organize an event that would largely allow them a justification for an expansion of this conflict and even potentially the use of nuclear weapons inside of Ukraine, because this is tragic. This is going to be their Pearl Harbor-like event. How will they come out of it? What will happen afterwards is something that I think is going to be very big and very instrumental, especially when it comes to this election year and just everything happening geopolitically. So I'm going to put that poll in the YouTube chat right now.
The thing that doesn't make sense to me from the Russian false flag angle is that my understanding is that the Russian people are actually very upset that they haven't been more aggressive in this war, and that Putin has been the moderate. That's the Russian people's perspective. I'm not saying it's true.
Well, not all Russian people. There's a sentiment like that
Yes,
with
yes.
some Russian individuals. There's also a lot of people who don't like the war and want
of
Putin
course.
to stop
Of course,
the war
but
immediately because
those-
they're essentially killing their brothers and sisters.
Right, but I'm just saying that there is a big contingent. He just won the election by a dramatic fashion. There's a big contingent in Russia that want this war to be ended, and they want it to be done decisively. And it doesn't seem as if it would be necessary for them to do this to have domestic support to do so. So that's usually the reason that you would go the false flag route, is to try and garner domestic support. I'm just thinking all these things through. One more variable that we haven't mentioned, and we probably can't until we're on Rumble, but I'll just be broad with it. There has also been reports about them, the Russians supporting, not the people, but the Russian government supporting Hamas in some fashion, that the Israelis were extraordinarily upset about that. So just add that into the mix. There's a lot of variables and a lot of moving parts, which is why I say you got to reserve judgment and keep digging.
That seems, there's a lot of extrapolation here. There's also a lot of other people potentially saying, hey, Russia just added the LGBT movement to their list of terrorist and extremist organizations. And of course, there's a lot of photos and videos going around circulating of that as well. And again, we don't know. We don't know exactly what's going on here. But again, there is a long list of false flag attacks, not just committed by the West, but many other countries throughout recorded human history. If you look at a lot of the wars, they're usually started through false flags. They're usually started through organized, orchestrated events that are not that truthful, that are not that honest with exactly what happened here. As of course, in the 90s, there was some very serious apartment bombings that were linked to allegedly the Chechens, that a lot of people point the finger at Putin and the FSB for being responsible for. There's a lot of these particular incidences that I do believe should be questioned, and if we're going to be questioning the West, we should be questioning the East as well.
Yes,
as it's important to be honest, intellectually real and just upfront with our kind of thinking and a larger kind of understanding of what's happening here. Because if we just see it one way, the West is always bad, I think that's a failed perspective. I think that's a perspective that fails on its ass. And a lot of people are already saying, I already see some influencers, some of them that I even respected, saying the CIA did this. I'm like, dude, we don't even know what happened yet. Like you're automatically saying the CIA, you're automatically saying Israel did this. Okay. Like that's again a little ridiculous here. Because I'm losing respect for a lot of these individuals, because again, we could speculate, but say you're speculating. Yeah. Don't openly declare, I know exactly what happened here, and it fits exactly my geopolitical view and what I want to happen. It's CIA, it's Israel. It could be Russia too.
I think,
or it could be exactly like they tell us the situation unfolded as well. So we got the poll running right now on YouTube. You want to take part of that poll, check out youtube.com/wearechange.
I think the important, like the most definitive thing I can say at this junction is that it's clear that the U.S. State Department had intel that this was a serious risk, and they're not going to inform the American people as to how they had that intel. I think that's what concerns me most, is that because they put out, I mean, you can look it up. 2 weeks ago, they put out a warning for Americans to avoid large gatherings in Moscow. This happened just on the outskirts of Moscow. So,
well, we have the video here from the White House press conference, specifically with John Kirby saying this 2 weeks ago. Here's the video.
I've also seen, hopefully you saw the State Department, our embassy there, put out a notice to all Americans in Moscow to avoid any large gathering, concerts, obviously shopping malls, anything like that, just for their own safety. They should stay put where they are and stay plugged into the State Department for any additional updates and information. I'm afraid that's really all I have on that. Now, on Ukraine, today Russia launched a map.
So
that's not all he had on that, I promise you.
what do you think? What do you think he had on it?
No, I'm just saying,
Steph,
like,
press the buttons.
that's all. That's not all. That was all he was permitted to talk about. They always the reason they come to that conclusion is that they have either surveillance or leaks of intel. Like, they know more, so they know more as to who they thought was likely to perpetrate this act. So the fact that it still happened with American intel community having knowledge, or foreknowledge is how they would describe it. This does not at all draw conclusive evidence that they were a participant or allowed it to happen or wanted it to happen. We don't know any of that.
You
but they
usually
did know
don't
it was gonna happen.
declare like, hey guys,
Right.
this is going to happen here, and then But again, there's this kind of doctrine by a lot of government officials now where they release a lot of information in order to confuse people and have them jumping to conclusions that they want them to jump to. It is a larger information war that we're a part of here, and that's why I'm always careful with my words. I'm always careful. When I speculate, I tell you I speculate. When I theorize, I tell you I theorize. And
When he pretends to speculate, he tells you he's speculating.
Yes.
I'm just
Thank you.
speculating. He knows.
No, we don't. But
He doesn't know. He doesn't know.
leave the camera on him. Just leave the camera on him.
Just let him sit in silence.
Yeah.
No, give me something to read. You come on.
Say something.
Don't do this to
How
me.
about-
Don't do
how
this
about-
to
How
me.
about you do this? How about you do this? You go on Twitter, you look at the latest news, and if you find something useful,
I get
to
distracted on
update
Twitter.
us- I know. Stop
get
looking.
distracted.
Stop looking at the e-girls.
Let me
listen. Just go on Twitter, look at the news, and be like, "Hey, there's this development. There's this report coming in. This is what I'm seeing here."
I'll find something.
Let me add one other important variable. Zelensky has been talking for months now, upwards of a year, of wanting to take the fight to Russia. He's been saying that over and over again. So,
And that's exactly what they did. They attacked Belgorod,
Right.
and they attack a lot of the border states inside of Russia.
But I mean, from the Russian perspective, you can understand why. Okay, you said you were going to take the fight to us. Now we have this terrorist attack. You're all claiming, including the State Department, which has lied through its teeth consistently for decades, that you have no involvement. I can understand from a Russian perspective why you wouldn't buy that narrative on face value, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't know.
Now, we know previously that Russia and the United States did share intelligence, as there's a famous case of the Russians specifically warning us about the Boston bombings.
Yeah, the marathon.
And some people are saying that they withheld some information. Some people are saying that they actually told us what was going on, and that there was a spelling error that prevented these guys from being captured before committing these larger attacks. There's also questions about that particular event as well. I remember being there on the ground reporting on it, and it was freaking like
Horrible.
martial law.
Yeah.
It was literally stormtroopers everywhere, lockdowns, and it was an extremely intense event that also a lot of people have some very serious questions about.
You know, it makes you feel good that we gave up on the entirety of the Bill of Rights so that a spelling error could be the difference between the FBI stopping a terrorist attack and not. Awesome.
Yeah, but the situation, with the Boston bombing highlights the situation where previously the United States and Russia used to talk to each other, used to collaborate together, used to work together. I don't think we're doing that anymore, as of course a lot of diplomatic ties have been cut. A lot of communication has been cut. Negotiations haven't even transpired, haven't even happened when it comes to ending this larger proxy war that's unfolding right now between the United States and Russia inside of Ukraine. And that previously unfolded in Syria. So when we look at that kind of situation, it does kind of make you wonder, how much at risk are we, and how much of this information from the intel agencies is being weaponized and is being hidden away from the general public?
Let's add to that too. Go even beyond the Boston bombing. A very famous story. The first world leader to reach out to the Bush administration after 9/11 was Vladimir Putin, and he said he offered their entire lineup of intel agencies and everything possible to go after whoever was responsible. So it is not necessarily true that we have to be on a war path with Russia. They have demonstrated historically a willingness and a desire to be in a good relationship with the West and with the United States of America. So I don't know why we're on this path, but I assure you it is not to our benefit.
Yeah, and when you look at things like the Nord Stream bombing, which today we're also very interestingly finding out that the United States, according to the Polish foreign minister, have advanced knowledge of and, quote, did nothing to prevent. Yes, this is the latest news coming out right now and being shared around by a lot of individuals, specifically detailing the comments made by the Polish foreign minister describing that this larger ecological disaster that destroyed the gas pipelines between Germany and Russia was something that the United States knew was going to happen and did nothing to prevent. And of course, geopolitically, the United States is going to be in an absolutely horrible situation if Russia and Germany kind of come together. And I think a lot of the Cold War, a lot of this kind of NATO expansion deals with this larger geopolitical threat that not a lot of people like to talk about, as the two countries almost came together during the 1930s and the 1940s. And if they did, the situation in the world would have looked a lot different. If you factor in the engineering power and the natural resources of Russia, that's a real legitimate concern here. And the fight that's happening in Ukraine, I believe, is largely used as an excuse to counter that kind of larger threat against the U.S. empire and its hegemony. That's just my 2 cents. That's just my perspective here, as the situation in Ukraine does not look good for the people there, as we also have a video going around allegedly showing a British troop there who was working as a medic describing a situation where he is seeing the Ukrainians lose on a lot of the fronts here. We have the video here, and again, take in consideration, there's a lot of deep fakes out there, there's a lot of manipulation out there, but this is allegedly a medic in Ukraine volunteering for their army there, describing the situation as this.
I'm a medic in Ukraine, and we are shooting ourselves over here.
Hold on, he also says, Twitter has a weird thing of videos stopping midway, and he's describing how the front lines essentially is being taken by the Russians. And when you look at the population, when you look at the resources, when you look at the stockpile of hardware, the Ukrainians are absolutely at a at a significant disadvantage compared to the Russians that are making some significant head gains inside of Ukraine. As there's also reports of the Russians that are now allegedly trying to block Ukraine's access to the sea, as there also have been a lot of very serious attacks on Odessa recently in retaliation for the Ukrainians going into Russian territory and attacking Russian cities, which is a red line that Vladimir Putin previously said and described is something that if the West crosses, will mean that he has a right to retaliate with nuclear weapons. That's what's at stake here. All of humanity, all of civilization. And when we have these major events unfolding in Moscow, it sends a very dangerous message that this could escalate in very serious ways that would involve us and involve the safety and the security of the world in very, very horrible ways. No.
I mean, risking all of life on Earth to decide which corrupt government gets to rule over Eastern Ukraine. I can't tell you how much I do not care which corrupt government rules over Eastern Ukraine, and I'm just being honest.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what this fight is.
That's it.
I mean, you can get much more sinister as to what we're covering up there, and Victoria Nuland going up on Capitol Hill and talking to Marco Rubio and talking about the things that I can't say here.
Well, it's essentially gangsters fighting for tax slaves.
Yeah.
They're like, I want to tax this jurisdiction. It is mine. And another gangster comes in with a tracksuit saying, nope, it's mine. well, we'll fight for it. Let's send the poor people to fight for it. As, of course, the rich kids in Ukraine, they get to pay off their draft notices and the members of the military that try to get them to enroll. The poor people, they're sent to the front lines. Yep. Same with the poor Russians that are also drafted, sent to the front lines.
I would imagine none of the Russian oligarchs' children are on the front lines right now. And this is the nature of war. I mean, it's not just an Eastern issue. This is also very common how the American military works. This is usually the poorest and least advantaged folks in society that end up enlisting. There's obviously some that are legacy families that come from wealthy families that opt to do so, but it's just for the life of me, I haven't seen a just war in my lifetime, and I don't know why we continue to get suckered into this stuff. It's so obvious that we're being lied to, and it's been so obvious for 2 years now, and we continue to get bled financially and eventually physically.
I mean, this is why I've always been anti-war. All the wars throughout I'm against it. Why are we doing it? It's stupid. It makes no sense at all. And when you really look down to what's really going on, it's your tax dollars literally being spent to create a problem that a couple of years later down the line we're going to be fighting. Same with Al Qaeda in the 1980s to go after the Russians. Same with Libya. Same with Syria. Same with all these other conflicts that are unfolding right now that so many people are losing their lives to. All for what? What's the greater purpose here? What's the reason why this is happening? And a lot of it is just stupid. A lot of this is just ridiculous, especially when you're seeing the gore, the explosions, the main bodies, the loss of life, the drones that are literally flying into people and then blowing them up to small pieces. That stuff right there is hell on earth. And a lot of the people who are usually the biggest kind of pushers of war, they're usually some of the weakest, most effeminate soy boy chicken hawks that you could even frickin' imagine. Lindsey Graham, Ben Shapiro. I mean, I don't think those guys ever lifted a 5-pound weight in their life, nor get punched in the face ever. I don't think these people know what actual real violence could consist of on this earth and just how absolutely dastardly and evil it is.
And I know you saw this footage last night, Luke, of the 4 young, it looked like teenagers in Gaza that got blown up by the drone.
Well, we'll be talking about that on Rumble, because we also have to talk about Candace Owens and her leaving the Daily Wire, which of course involves the country that a lot of people lose their ish about. A lot of people are like, and then other people just, again, the whole conversation is tainted in a way where it's not very easy to talk about, especially on YouTube. That is very censorious. So we will save that conversation for about 12 minutes, and then we'll fully get into it. I don't think we're going to show the footage. I don't want to show footage. We run a different show here. Other shows usually like drama. They like fighting. They like controversy. They like to surprise their guests. Alex Stein literally had a random guy put a knife to Ian Crossland's neck who wasn't trained, didn't know what he was doing. Ian's still traumatized from that. And I'm like, we don't do that ish here, as well as we don't curse. Family friendly show here for the first hour. I don't like showing the kind of gory stuff. And
Alex also set up Josie to debate Bryson Gray, even though she had explicitly said she wasn't willing to. I love Alex Stein, but you got to stop doing that, brother. Come on, man.
He was supposed to be on the show a couple of weeks ago.
Ian was talking about the knife thing a second ago. So he did that on purpose. I thought it was like a thing that just kind of whatever. That sounds kind of rough. I mean, if it was a real knife, I don't know. I was looking at Twitter, by the way, and you're right. It's all just, females and explosions. So it's kind of, it's like a mixture. I don't like. I don't know.
What's the one thing that's the
thing that
stays with
I
you the
don't
most?
think I don't think I should tell you. I hit.
Okay.
We'll
wait for Rumble.
It's not that bad. It's bad. It's horrible, but it's not that bad. I think you can say it. But it's this guy and whatever. I just clicked show, and it's this guy who has a piercing right here.
Okay, we don't want to know about this.
And and you can see his mouth on the inside. Why do you do that? And it's like everyone's like, why did you do that? Like, there's no positive support in the comments. People are crazy. And I'm allergic to your dog, but your dog likes me a lot. Are we leaving? We're going to Rumble? All right.
To me, I really...
I was telling everyone to stay quiet. You didn't see? I was telling Atlas. Come here.
This is why Steph doesn't talk a lot.
Okay, go ahead, Steph. No. But go ahead, Steph.
It's hilarious.
Sit. Relax. Other side. Lay down. Thank you. Go ahead, Steph. Steph, what are you doing? Steph, go. I was going to create the awkward moment with Toby, not with you. Come on, go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, I didn't even get to start my thought, and now it's poof, gone.
All right.
You don't remember what it was?
All right, thank you, Toby.
Yeah,
definitely
I did some research.
Definitely carrying the
I
conversation.
brought some
here.
research into the conversation.
Let's get into the other developments that are also pretty worrying and pretty serious. This is a great segue, Toby. This is perfect. As of course, there's also a lot of serious talk and consideration of French troops essentially being sent to Ukraine to fight on the Ukrainian side, as we are also getting a lot of reports from the European Union that countries like Finland are told to prepare for war. If you remember, just even a few weeks ago, we had the head of NATO saying, hey guys, prepare for some big emergencies coming your way. Make sure you have some emergency supplies. Make sure you have some flashlights. Make sure you have a radio. Make sure you have a little bit of food and water, which again, people should have regardless of human disasters. There's also natural disasters that you as a human being should always be ready for, no matter what the situation is. But again, this situation in Ukraine is absolutely worrying. It's absolutely sociopathic. It's absolutely freaking dangerous. And again, I don't understand the larger geopolitical goals. I don't understand what we're doing here. There hasn't been an American politician who says, hey, we're doing this for this reason that makes sense. We're doing this to fight for democracy, to fight for freedom. No, we're not doing any of that. As of course, there's no democracy in Ukraine. There is no freedom in Ukraine. We're fighting for what here? Again, we have never been given a clear answer. What's going to be the trajectory here? What are going to be the steps that are going to be following this larger conflict? How will it develop into a Ukrainian victory? How is this going to work? No one knows. And all we're told is just go along with everything. Just approve the spending bills. Just give Ukraine hundreds of millions of dollars. You give them billions of dollars, and everything will be fine, as the House just passed a $1.2 trillion minibus spending bill that will be sending a significant amount of money to Ukraine to prolong this conflict that, of course, is reaching very dangerous proportions and could expand very soon. This is ridiculous.
I hadn't heard that there was Ukraine funding in that. Is that true? Do you know how much?
From the reports that I saw, a couple $100 million.
Oh, so not much.
A drop in the bucket.
Compared to the billions or hundreds of billions that we've already sent. Look, this is the entire reason that Mike Johnson got the chair position, is because the former guy refused to take single item spending bills to the floor. That was the whole reason that Mike Johnson got the job, and he once again has now failed on it. And it just seems quite evident that we're going to continue to have to oust the chair until we get someone in there who actually says what they means what they say. I'm very upset. Anyone other than Thomas Massie is speaker, and I do not trust anybody else.
So we have the poll running on YouTube, and within 20 minutes, a couple hundred people voted. Overwhelmingly, a lot of people believe that the West is responsible for the larger attack that just unfolded in Moscow, Russia. 73%, 8% believe it was Russia, potentially doing a false flag in order to justify a larger, kind of more aggressive geopolitical move. Other people are saying that it is what they say it is ISIS, and that is 19% of the people in the poll.
I think that's a perfect split. That's exactly how my brain dices the options. So good job, audience.
We got another comment from Rumble ranter Pepe Payne saying CIA opt to get Russia to blame Ukraine to keep West involved in war effort. Passage of recent bill is proof enough. Never trust government. I agree with that last part. Exactly what happened is again, we got another mysuperchat.com from a name that we are going to have to read on Rumble. Pepe Payne gave another one saying, if the Steph, you want to read this?
If the Russia animosity is real, why do we still collaborate on the space station? It's all fake and gay.
Yeah. Well, also, why do we collaborate with China on their labs? There's a bunch of weird behavior that we simultaneously describe these people as our arch enemies, but we are also doing really dangerous research with some of them.
Yeah. Why are we dependent on all of our antibiotics and pharma pills from China still? I don't understand that.
And we allow them to buy farmland outside of military bases. It's like none of this adds up. And this is why, Tim and I actually got into this a little bit when I was on IRL. I do not understand the dynamics. All I know is that what we're being told is not the truth. And that's why anytime, the federal government comes to me and they say, hey, give us more power so that we can fight China. I'm like, I'm not so sure that you're fighting China. Like, you are, but you aren't. And but I definitely know that you want to have more power over me. So I reject that.
No, absolutely. But again, this situation, not a good one. Pretty crazy day unfolding right now in Moscow, Russia. Again, my sympathies are with all the people who were negatively affected here, as it's tragic. And these events, sadly, whether we like it or not, will be used for political purposes and justifications
and more death and destruction
to expand it and essentially create this larger cycle. That's what I kind of see here, kind of unfolding.
That's my big fear, is that, whether or not the West, as our polls, predominantly think it was responsible, it's still, if I would imagine that the Russian people are going to perceive it that way, and that would be enough to bolster, Putin's very, very over the top response potentially in Kiev or somewhere else. And that's the next 48 hours makes me very nervous. That's the other thing that's weird about this. As you said, we don't usually do shows on Friday because
nothing really happens on Friday. Friday is like a slow news day.
Right. But the one thing that does happen is like things that the powers that be don't want in the media. Like you'll see big bills get passed by Congress late on a Friday sometimes.
All the stuff they're trying to sneak past us.
Exactly.
It happens on a Friday frickin' night.
So the fact that this happened on a Friday is I don't know, just interesting. That's all.
Yeah.
I don't have anything more to say about that. I'm just interesting.
No, we've been, we got another mysuperchat.com from Lane Boy saying, today scares me. Clint, you being on Timcast reminded me of when you and Dave showed up and made him look silly about Bin Laden's letter to America. That's Lane Boy on mysuperchat.com.
That was the last time I was on there, was actually with Dave, which was really cool for me. And we went to war over that letter. And, I loved him, but we have very fierce disagreements from time to time.
No, me and him like scream at each other all the time, and it's great. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I prefer that over people being fake and just not real.
Yeah, no yes men.
You know me. I'm not one for cordial.
Luke is no yes man.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm very strong willed as well. Like me and Alex Jones haven't spoke for 10 years because we were in a fight.
Crazy dude.
I'm still friends with him now. He's a great guy. Again, people are people. But I think the more we're able to just be honest with each other, the better. I rather that than someone just kind of not having any kind of opinions at all. So
tell the truth.
Just be honest. Just be real. What do you believe? What do you think? Why do you think it? That's all the conversation should be about. It shouldn't be about anything else than that. I know a lot of other people like the show. They like the drama. Again, we're not here for that. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on, and I think we need to quantify it. We need to understand it. And the more we're able to kind of get that message out there to the general public, like, hey, these are all the larger possibilities here. This is what you should be looking out for, especially with all the stuff that the corporate media is not going to be telling you about. This is how we could stop the next one from happening. This is how you prepare yourself for whatever happens. Like, that information is crucial, and it is essential to saving lives and informing people so they make the right decisions for themselves, their family members, and that they don't go along with the next thing, whatever the next thing might be.
Like banning TikTok, Tim. Sorry.
Shots fired.
Shots fired.
You guys should...
We're banning it, right? It's going to be gone?
No, it hasn't passed yet.
Oh, I thought it did.
Well, unless it did while I was on the road, but I don't think so.
Anyway, if you value what I just said right now... we're going to continue the conversation on another platform that actually allows us to have this conversation without any kind of censorship, without any kind of...
I can express myself.
I promise you, if you go to Rumble, you will enjoy it much more because we were going to let rip.
Yeah, the Rumble show is a lot different than the show that, of course, we do here on YouTube, which is family friendly. We're doing in real life meetups, and one of the members of Look Unfiltered came out, and he was like, "Yeah, I really." He was there with a bunch of kids. He was like, "I really appreciate you doing a family friendly hour. I once played the Rumble thing, and you were talking about blank and blank inside of the orifices of blank going up there very violently, and then my kid was very perplexed and confused about what he was listening to. So, not a family-friendly show here. YouTube family-friendly. It's great for the Kyles, great for the Karens. We got another Super Chat T-Dog saying, in the UK, we have a new term for the U.S. Global American Empire, a.k.a. GAE. I don't know what that means, but okay. Thank you, T-Dog, for your Super Chat. Really appreciate you guys. Conversation continues. Rumble.com/WeAreChange. I'm going to send it off to...
Steph almost pronounced that acronym. That would have been... inappropriate stuff. You should have heard her. Don't do it. Not in the microphone. That's what it says. Yeah, I know. It's not. No. You were like, gay. I was like, oh, that's very funny. Very funny. We're still on YouTube. You can't do that. Are we on YouTube now?
Yes.
We are?
Steph, don't take the button off of him.
What are you doing?
Just leave it on him.
Flex, can you tell me one? Am I on now?
Yes, you're on now.
That's us?
Yes. You're on
That was
YouTube.
terrible. You told me. I didn't shave.
You never did. You never showered either.
That's true. Actually, I didn't do that.
Anyway, rumble.com/we are change is where the conversation continues. Rumble.com/we are change. If you're watching on any other platform, that's where you need to go right now. Atlas appreciates it very much. Yeah. And if you guys appreciate free speech, if you guys appreciate platforms that actually stand up for individuals being able to say whatever they want without any fear of repercussions, go to rumble.com. Right now, I'm going to send it off to the Rumble guys so they're aware that we are live right now. It's not on the front page. I'll make sure it's on the front page. Now, Clint, Ed, before we leave off this particular platform, where can people find your work and support you? CPIstemcells.com and or the CPI Stem Cells Instagram. Also got a podcast, the Ed Clay Show. That's long form, deep discussions, one-on-one interviews. So
awesome.
Yeah, me and Tim were taken care very well by your staff in Tijuana, and
this is the guy I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You do some really important stuff, especially when it comes to helping and healing people deal with some very significant issues. We'll talk about that. We can't talk about that on YouTube. We'll talk about that on Rumble. But you do absolutely incredibly important work. So shouts out to CPI, shouts out to Scotty, shouts out to you, of course, for all the incredible stuff that you guys do out there in Tijuana. And me and Tim definitely appreciate it very much.
We will be going deeper on that in just a matter of minutes. I actually had really terrible jumper's knee from beach volleyball for years, and I wasn't able to get what you offer because they didn't let me. But I got platelet-rich plasma therapy, and that helped quite a bit. Good. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Liberty Lockdown is the show on YouTube. Please do go and subscribe, and then when you're done doing that, pick up your phone and look up the best political show and Liberty Lockdown and click subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And aside from that, we will see you on Rumble. Tobuscus, where can people follow your work?
I don't know. Twitter, Toby Turner, or Tobuscus YouTube. I mean, we posted a song a couple days ago. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
You want to watch it?
Yeah, check that out with Ian Carlson, the great.
It was okay.
And you can follow Steph at Steph WRC, I think.
Is that it, Steph?
Yes, on X, Steph WRC.
Keep talking. I gotta do something.
Instagram at Steph.
Not slower.
Not slower.
Slow as possible.
Not slower. Keep talking.
And she's done.
All right, guys. Taking callers in about 30 minutes for